Hello, interweb, cybernet. It's your boy, Mr. Hosking. I'm here to start talking about the Cold War. Specifically today, I'd like to talk about the roots of the Cold War. The Cold War is going to be dealt with by two major factions, one of them led by the United States of America, which we will always call the winners, and the other side led by the Soviet Union, the USSR. These are the two nations that are going to square off in the Cold War. Notice I'm trying to avoid, to the best of my ability, using the word fight, because there's not an enormous amount of fighting between the USSR and the USA during the Cold War. It's more posturing or trying to appear bigger or stronger or appear the winner or take advantage of situations that are going on in the world during this time, opposing each other, not working together. And that's what the Cold War really is about. It's about two countries giving each other the cold shoulder. So there's two perspectives to the root of the Cold War. The first one is going to be the United States point of view. One, at the end of World War II, Stalin seems to be intent on creating a sphere of influence. We talked about spheres of influence when we talked about imperialism of China. Here we see Stalin trying to create an area of the world that he can be in charge of, that he can be in control of, so that other countries aren't involved. In Eastern Europe, he's creating this buffer zone between everyone and the Soviet Union, and he's trying to really control that area. Winston Churchill makes a speech called The Iron Curtain. It's a reference to this idea of a divide. It's not a real Iron Curtain. There's nowhere in the world that you can go and be like, hey, look, there's the Iron Curtain. It's this ideological, this philosophical divide between what the Soviet Union wants with communism and what the United States wants with capitalism. And democracy. So there's these two different ideals, and there's a divide between them, and that's the Iron Curtain. And so Churchill makes this speech in 1946, and it's alerting the United States that there's this divide, and we're not going to get along with the Soviet Union. And so from the United States point of view, this Cold War is created because of the difference between the Soviet Union and the United States. The United States wants to spread democracy throughout the world. We are fans of democracy. We think it's the best type of government. We don't believe in totalitarianism. We don't believe in monarchies. We don't believe in people being told what they have to do. We think people have the right to elect their officials and have their country run how they want it to run. So it's this idea. We want to spread democracy. Communism is a totalitarian state. They don't get to choose who's their leaders, who's in their government. They're told stuff. So we don't like that. We want that to change. Oh, sorry. There's a political cartoon here, and you can see it's the Iron Curtain made in Moscow. This is what Churchill was talking about. There's no actual Iron Curtain. This is, again, a political cartoon kind of showing what he's talking about. People don't want to be fenced in by the Soviet Union, but the Soviet Union is doing it. They're making this sphere of influence that they have under their control behind the Iron Curtain. The Soviet Union point of view, democracies are hostile towards communism and the USSR. We're actually going to watch a video in my video. We're going to try something brand new today. We're going to watch a video in my video of this point, so I'm not going to go too into depth with it. But democracy is not a fan of the Soviet Union. They're not a fan of communism. Right from the start, they're against the Bolsheviks. The United States and Britain didn't start fighting in World War II quick enough for the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union was taking the brunt of the Nazis' attacks, and the British and the Americans, although they might be fighting a little bit in Africa, they don't invade Europe until D-Day in 1944. And the Soviets are dying on the battlefields without the help of the British and the Americans, and the Soviet Union's like, well, I thought we're friends. I thought we're fighting together. Why aren't you guys fighting? You're just sitting on the sidelines, not losing troops. We're losing millions of Russian troops. So they're not happy with that. Also, the United States and Britain froze Russia out of the Manhattan Project, the project that creates the atomic bomb. If we're friends, if we're allies, how come we're not involved in making the atomic bomb? How come you're doing it together without us? It doesn't seem like a fair friendship here. You guys are working together, and I'm out on the side. And finally, The Soviet Union wants a buffer zone. They don't think of it as a sphere of influence. They're tired of getting invaded by Germany, and they want an area of land that they control in between the Soviet Union and where Germany is, so that they know for sure they're not going to get invaded by Germany ever again. This is called the Eastern Bloc. It's the border of the Soviet Union, the western border, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Romania, those kinds of countries. They want to control those countries so they can have a divide. We're going to try something new today. We're going to go to a video. At the end of the video, this video will be completely over. I'm your boy. This has been the Roots of the Cold War. See you later, Cybernet, Interspace. I love you guys. Have a good day.
The bitter rivalry had its roots in the years of the First World War, when the competing ideas of communism and liberal democracy first came into conflict. Beginning in 1914, World War I consumed Europe in killing and destruction. For the Western powers, the war was hell. For the Russian army, it was pure hell, 20 times over. Sent to fight without food, without ammunition, sometimes even without weapons, the demoralized soldiers were a human sacrifice to the war gods, offered up by a corrupt imperialist ruler, Russia's Tsar Nicholas II. At home, the Tsar urged his subjects to work harder, eat less, support the doomed war effort. By 1917, the Russian people were tired of the war, tired of starving, and tired of their Tsar. In February of that year, a public demonstration for a higher bread ration escalated into a popular rebellion. Tsar Nicholas was overthrown and imprisoned. A new government came to power. They promised democratic elections, new freedoms, equal rights for women.
A revolution belongs to the people. I propose to defend it against any attack, whether from the left or from the right.
Russia's flirt with democracy would be short-lived. In Switzerland, an exiled Russian named Vladimir Lenin was planning his own revolution, based on the writings of the German philosopher Karl Marx. Living in 19th century England, Marx witnessed firsthand the growing disparity between the rich and the poor. He predicted that the inequities of the capitalist system would inspire a spontaneous revolution of the modern working class, the proletariat. Capitalism would be replaced by a system of social and economic equality called communism.
We declare openly that our ends can only be achieved by the forcible overthrow of all social conditions.
Lenin interpreted Marx's beliefs with religious and violent fervor. He returned to Russia to lead a group called the Bolsheviks and condemn the new government.
They imagine that serious political questions are decided by voting. As a matter of fact, they are decided by class war.
In October 1917, Lenin launched his revolution and seized control of Russia. He and his band of comrades then set about establishing their workers' paradise, the modern Soviet socialist state. Bank accounts and personal property were confiscated. Private fields became collectivized farms. Stores and businesses were surrendered to the state. Lenin was intolerant of dissent and totally ruthless. Arrest without charge, imprisonment without trial, disappearance without explanation. All became routine. In the United States, President Woodrow Wilson followed events in Russia with growing unease. He had committed his nation to World War I in order that the world be made safe for democracy. In his 14 points address to Congress, he outlined how to achieve his lofty goals based on principles of national self-determination, free trade, and international cooperation. But the president's vision for the future did not include the Bolsheviks. Instead, when civil war broke out in Russia in 1919, Wilson sent troops to fight against Lenin's government. And in England, a young Winston Churchill urged swift action. Before the House of Commons, he declared, "We must strangle the infant Bolshevism in the cradle." Such rhetoric convinced Lenin and his comrades, including Joseph Stalin, that the West would stop at nothing to destroy their communist dream.
I hope that didn't suck. I'm your boy, Mr. Hoskins. See you later, Cyberweb.